What's up, guys? Rick here with your preview for this week's Sony Open. It's a great event. It's actually kind of fond in my heart, but let me get to a couple of very important things before we jump into this because it's a big week. There are two different contests, actually technically three different contests that are available on Splash Sports right now. We've got our $5,000 guaranteed listener league for just the Sony Open. That is always there, right? That's guaranteed. Then if you want more, how about 100 times that? The $500,000 guaranteed one and done. Somebody's going to win 50 grand. And if you want a higher buy-in than the $150 entry, there is a $1,000 high roller as well. So get in, let's fill these things up quickly so that we can continue to get more guaranteed money from Splash. Let's rock and roll. And then additionally, I'm just going to get this out of the way because we're going to use this a ton on the Wednesday show, which is an hour earlier this week. The Wednesday live stream is at 2 p.m. Eastern time. This tool that I consulted on for Pool Genius is the best one and done tool on the market because it is entirely custom to you. You put in your league, your rules, your standings, your payouts. It knows what picks you've made, all of that stuff, and it gives you this really great dashboard. We get a discount, obviously, because I've helped work on this and continue to consult on it with them. The link is in the description. Now's the time, okay? And it gets more valuable throughout the year, but big week, not going to ask you to do much more. That's the main information. Otherwise, let's jump right into this thing. And I mentioned it before. By the way, this is RickRunGood.com. Everything from here on out, my website, RickRunGood.com. I love Waialae. I love the Sony Open. I believe this is the first professional golf event I ever went to and kind of sticks out as a core memory to me, but there's not a lot to say about this golf course. You know, very different than Kapalua last week. This is a par 70 instead of a par 73. It's 7,000 yards and almost completely flat, so it's going to play every bit of that. Much smaller greens. The greens are, depending on how fast they're rolling, they can get a little tricky at times. They can get a little bouncy at times, but scoring should still be plenty good around Waialae Country Club. You see these guys just take the lid off of number 9, a par 5, number 18, a par 5. That's what you're seeing here. And what you'll really notice about this is if we look at the course correlation, there is not a very strong correlation between driving distance and success at this golf course. It's very short. Guys that have won here have often been better fairway through green players than off the tee players. You can win as a shorty. If you're long and inaccurate, that's okay too, because you can bomb and gouge your way around Waialae, but you are not boxed out immediately because of your lack of distance. It's why you've seen, Webb Simpson, Kevin Kidd, those types of golfers have a lot of success here. Where you will see a little bit of positive correlation, and these aren't massive numbers, but driving accuracy is definitely an above average stat. Putting is definitely within the top quarter of all PGA Tour courses. It ranks 14th, which means there's only 13 other courses in which strokes gained putting is more important. And then when you start looking at the secondary stats, makes sense, right? You've got putting from 8 feet. That's the 50-50 range on the PGA Tour. Lowest round, got to make birdies, got to be able to putt. Total birdies is third. Putting from 20 to 25 feet is fourth. So we've got scoring and we've got putting. Scoring and putting, that is the combination that we are going to go with. I don't really care how you get yourself off the tee. Either long and inaccurate or short and accurate. I don't care. It's what happens after that I think is going to be a lot bigger deal when you get to guys that you probably want to roster for this week. Now, if you take all of those metrics from above and you adjust them for a course fit over the last 24 rounds for every single golfer in this field, let's see who pops out as guys who get a better adjusted fit, a boost, so to speak. I think it's going to be guys like Mackenzie Hughes. Let's see here. I'm running my screen recorder, so this always takes an extra second when I'm doing that. Okay, yeah, Mackenzie Hughes is number one because he does not get penalized off the tee, which you see here, but he gets a big boost for his approach play, his around the green play, and his putting. Potgieter is, we probably don't have a ton of stats on him, but he would be second. Lucas Glover makes sense is third. Matty Schmidt is fourth. Nico Echeverria is fifth. Again, you don't need, like, what is, like, Lucas Glover, Nico Echeverria, and Mackenzie Hughes, kind of similar-ish golfers, right? Mackenzie Hughes is better around the greens, but those are guys that are accurate off the tee, have the ability to putt well. Lucas Glover, looking at you, might not always do it, but they do. Look at this. Okay, this is also a very good chart, and I love this chart. I don't show it enough because a lot of times it's like an even split. But what I do here is I take literally just the stats. This is not my opinion whatsoever. The penalty for missing the fairway versus the reward for hitting a long drive, and a long drive is defined as a drive that is longer than the average for that hole. So if the average for that hole is 230, if you hit it farther than that, long drive. If it's 330 and you hit it 300, that's shorter, right? Right. So it's adjusted that way. And on every single hole except number 18, there is a larger penalty for missing the fairway than a reward for hitting a long drive. That right there is all you need to know about why some of the shorter, more plodding players have had so much success at this golf course. The stats bear it out. Play from the fairway. You don't necessarily have to be long, and go from there. Or at least it is a bigger, not all of them are huge differences. Some are, but not all of them are huge differences between the two. Like number 12, almost identical. The reward for hitting a long drive versus the penalty for missing a fairway. But hey, still slightly bigger penalty if you do miss the fairway. So I thought that was really cool. I don't think we see another course for a while in which all but one is either accuracy or distance. In this case, it is accuracy. The cheat sheet. This is pretty interesting. So we've got two golfers here, $11,000 for Hideki Matsuyama and $10,200 for Corey Connors. So we're going to talk about both of them. Hideki is very clearly the best player in the field, and that would have been the sentiment well before his dominating historic victory at the Century last week, in which he lapped the field, picked up 18 shots in a 58-man field, which is just an insane thing to do, gained across the board in nearly every single category in almost all four rounds. So really solid play. The putter, that new putter that he put into play, the center shafted Scotty Cameron prototype, picks up 5.5 strokes putting. If he does anything remotely close to that this week, it is probably going to be another good one for him. Picked up 9 strokes on approach. And oh, by the way, if you want history, Hideki's played here a lot. Quite honestly, it's not good. Like, the history is not good, except he won here in 2022. Like, that's it. He does have a couple other top 20 finishes, but he's played here a lot, missed the cut, bunch of T25, T51, T30. He's probably one of the best players in the field every single time he teed it up. But what do you see here? The only time since 2012 that he gained strokes putting, he won the tournament. Well, is he going to pick up another 5.5 like he did with the center shafted Scotty last week? Because if he does, might be game over. Speaking of putting, something very interesting is happening here, and I will need to dive deeper into this in my newsletter, which link is in the description. It's 100% free. Or maybe I'll make one of those iPad videos that I've been putting out on Twitter. Corey Connors. So Corey Connors, by the way, happy birthday, Corey Connors. I love finding the Easter egg on RickRunGood.com. I don't know if you guys have ever seen this, but we have it so that when it is somebody's birthday, it pops up right here. Happy birthday, Corey Connors. That's cool. I love coming across that. It always gets me a little bit excited. All right. So his last 3 individual events. Now, he has played a President's Cup and he's played the Grant Thornton, which is a co-ed team event as well. But his last 3 individual events are a T7, a T6, and a T5. Right there, very, very good. Additionally, he is coming off of what I believe is the best putting performance of his career. I'm going to confirm that right now. But he led the field in strokes gained putting last week at the Century. Led the field. I've rarely said that about Corey Connors. And it was the best putting performance of his career. I would normally write that off, but he's picked up strokes putting in 3 out of his last 4 and in 6 of his last 9. So I do think that there is improvement there. But the magic thing here is that there is no golf course on the PGA Tour schedule in which Corey Conners putts better at than at Waialae. And that is even with 2 pretty bad putting performances in his last 2 years. So he's kind of an enigma here. A lot of things that you could make a case for might be narrative based, especially with the last 2 years in which he's lost basically 7 strokes putting over the course of those 8 rounds. But I think there is pretty solid evidence for me to be excited about this. Because even that T6 at the Nedbank, which is a DP World Tour event, he lost a stroke putting and still finished T6. So I think there's enough to be excited here about Corey Conners. Now, the 9K range. Oh boy. Okay. What are we going to do with the 9K range? So in theory, this should be a really good spot for guys like Russell Henley, Tom Kim. They are accurate, not long hitters of the golf ball. We've seen them get hot at times with the putter. I want to look at Tom Kim a little bit deeper here. Yeah. Okay, good. So here's Tom Kim's last 3 individual events. Runner-up finish at the Hero. Great stat line there. A good stat line there. Missed the cut at the Hong Kong Open. That was bizarre. And then he finished runner-up at the Korea Championship with an unbelievable stat line. I want to look at his Sony Open history. Played here 2 years ago. Did not play here last year. Lost 6.6 strokes putting and missed the cut. Is that the worst putting performance of his career? It's got to be, right? Yeah, it is. Okay. So we are, I think we're buying Tom Kim in a pretty big way here. This is a very, very good stat profile that we're starting to see. The last 6 months of 2024, he started to put it together. The putter's coming around, and there is just no way he loses 6 strokes putting again this week, right? Famous last words. Russell Henley also often tees it up at the Sony Open. He won it back in 2013, but even more recently, his last 4 are T4, T32, runner-up, and T11. Look at the putting gains here. Look at the approach gains here. Hits it accurate off the tee, picks up strokes off the tee there. This is probably a safer option. The safest option of the 9K range is probably Russell Henley. Tom Kim is probably a lot more up and down. There's probably a much wider range of outcomes for what he's up to. I'll talk about 2 more here in the 9K range, and I'm worried about Keegan Bradley, and I will continue to be worried about Keegan Bradley probably through much of 2025 just because of the responsibilities that come with being a Ryder Cup captain. But throw that narrative aside. His last 5 starts are win at the BMW Championship, T21 at the Tour Championship, that was not very good. On the winning squad at the President's Cup, and he played well. 5th at the Hero out of 18 or 20 golfers, and then a T15 at the Century. And the Century stat profile from last week, he gained throughout the bag. It was much better. His 4 out of his last 5 from tee to green have been splendid. In theory, in a vacuum, a total driver like Keegan Bradley should fit Waialae really well because he is long enough and accurate enough to get an advantage in both spots. And you'll see he has really taken advantage. Off the tee, he has picked up strokes at Waialae in 6 of his last 7 starts. He's got 3 top 12 finishes in his last 5. Most recently, a second place finish last year. Doesn't often putt well. So he's lost a ton of strokes putting here. Oh boy, in 5 out of his last 7. But the 2 that he's played really well in, or the 2 that he's putted well in, he's got good finishes, and he even has this finish right here. Probably one that he regrets a little bit. 2012, he lost 3 strokes putting and still finished T12. That could have been a week in which he contends for a victory. Now has picked up strokes putting recently in his last 3. I'm going to get Keegan early in the year and be worried about him later, but I think Keegan here, probably Farmers, right? Probably at Torrey Pines, and then I'm going to start to get a little bit worried after that, but feels like a pretty good time to run him out. And then Robert McIntyre, I think, is much more accurate than even I would think. And you can see that in the off the tee numbers. He's not the longest hitter on planet Earth, but he's picked up strokes off the tee in 8 straight. He's picked up strokes on approach in 5 straight. He's picked up strokes around the green in 7 straight. And the putter's cooled off. Didn't putt well in at the Hero World Challenge. Didn't putt well last week. Still finished T15. I think there's a lot to like here. I really do. And I'm going to continue to roll with Robert McIntyre. I think he's probably going to have a very solid 2025 campaign. So the 9K range offers a lot of really good, interesting options here for a little bit cheaper than the top end. As we get down to some value, I want to look at a couple other tools here. So firstly, there is a course horses tab on the Holy Grail, which allows you to put in minimum number. So I put in 10 minimum rounds at Waialae, and I'm just kind of looking through the best players here. You've got, Corey Connors is number one, and you can see that positive putting number. Chris Kirk, Russell Henley, Matt Kuchar, et cetera, et cetera. So there's not any 8K guys that pop up here, but there are 7K guys, and one in particular that I'm really excited about. But if you also go to the trends tool, this looks at a golfer's last X number of rounds over or compared to the 100 round baseline. And Luke Clanton is still building his 100 rounds, right? His 100 round baseline still hasn't been established yet because he hasn't played that many, but he's at a 1.59. He's 8,400. I'll show you him in a second. And then Harry Hall is at the bottom of this range at 8,100. So those are the two $8,000 guys that stand out in terms of the trends tool. So let's start there. I'm going to click Harry Hall's name. I'm going to click Luke Clanton's name. And then I actually like a lot of, well, I'm not going to say a lot, but like a decent number of guys in this range. So Harry Hall, I've talked about him a lot, is no longer a short game specialist. In fact, he has really turned himself into a very solid player from tee to green and throughout all facets of his game. He is a decent enough wedge player, and then nobody fills it up like Harry Hall does. In fact, him losing 0.2 strokes, 0.2 over the course of 4 rounds at the Century was the first time he lost strokes putting since May. Okay. So very, very good putter. Has he played the Sony? Probably, right? Yeah. He's played each of the last 2 years, 28th and 42nd. He's a much better player now than he was in any of those years. Here's Luke Clanton. Look at that smile. Look at that smile, because he knows it. He knows he is good, and he absolutely is. Runner-up finish at the RSM, 5th at the Wyndham. The ball striking metrics. So the RSM Classic's a little bit weird because there is a unmeasured round that he played on the Plantation course where he picked up 5.5 strokes in total, but we don't have his strokes gain breakdown, which probably would have been a round of him flushing it because that's normally what he does. So that is omitted because it wasn't tracked. But man, this is about as good of a stat profile as you could have asked for. An amateur and a guy basically making what is his first 8 to 10 career starts. It's awesome. It's awesome. So excited to see him get back out there. The other two that pique my interest, JT Poston, who again, if we on paper, it's the Keegan Bradley conversation. On paper, this is a really good spot for JT Poston. Accuracy, wedge play, putting, finished 6th here last year. T21 2 years ago, T42 3 years ago, and he does have a lot of experience. I was a little disappointed with how he played at the Century. I don't want to beat him up over it because it's, the first start of the year. It was kind of, I don't want to say the antithesis of how he's been playing, but his DNA is a much better approach player than the 2.2 strokes he lost on approach at the Century. It is much better than the 2.5 that he lost on the putting surfaces. Yes, he has struggled at times, in the summer, but I thought the fall really started to turn his play around. He got the win at Shriners, played well at the RSM. I'm giving JT one more chance here. I think he is still on an upward trend. If he struggles and finishes T40 or worse again, we're probably going to have a different conversation. And then I'll tell you what, if you're not buying the Austin Eckroat stock, I believe you are being left behind. Very strong putter with the ability to heat up. The way that he loses strokes, and he did it at the Century as well, is around the green. These are going to be much easier greenside positions at Waialae than at Kapalua, right? We've seen Kapalua with kind of short grass in situations, or when everyone's playing out of the same spot, you get really choppy spots with lots of divots and things like that. And guys struggle there. We've seen Colin Morikawa literally blow a 6-shot lead, right? That happens. Going to be a lot easier at Waialae. So if we just assume he's not going to lose 4 strokes around the green, now he is an unbelievable ball striker who can heat it up with the putter. And I think with 2 wins last year, he is trending towards having a really big 2025 campaign. He's played here twice, 42nd, 12th, and the stat profile in both of those weeks is actually pretty darn good. So he's got me fairly excited. Then you can fill that in with Davis Thompson, who just like long-term great tee to green player, getting better every single week. If you wanted to go to Sepp Straka, I get it. Like I don't have a problem with much of the 8K range outside of Brian Harman, who finished like 35 shots behind Hideki Matsuyama last week. Yeah. Okay. The 7K range is they're all the DFS guys, right? These are veterans. We know exactly what they are. They are all priced together, and we've got to kind of figure out what's going on here. The guy that I'm most excited about is Daniel Berger. I'm drafting him in a lot of season-long leagues. I don't believe when he is at his best, he's a top 10 or 15 player in the world. We're also seeing him start to round into shape. I would go back to here, Sanderson Farms, where he finished 7th and gained throughout the bag. Vintage Daniel Berger, 35th at the Black Desert, gained throughout the bag. 39th at the Shriners, 20th in Mayakoba. No, Cabo. T62 in Bermuda, not great. Runner-up finish at the RSM, and then he played the Grant Thornton, which I'm not super worried about. But his course history is great. He has played here 6 times, no finish worse than 45th. He has gained strokes to the field every single time. He played here most recently in 2021. So I am aware of that. Finished T7. That was his best finish. I'm a buyer of Berger until something happens otherwise. We saw Mackenzie Hughes get the big course fit boost. I shouldn't even say course history because that's not true. It is a course fit boost. If you look at what he's done, T6 at the Nedbank, that's the same event that Corey Connors played. I couldn't remember who I was thinking about. T5 at the RSM Classic, T8 at the Sanderson Farms. That's 3 of his last 4 starts. The reason I separate course fit from course history is because they are 2 different things. And for Mac Hughes, they are very different things. His course history here is not great. He's played here 6 times since 2017. He's missed the cut half the time. His best finish is a T19. So I'm hopeful that he can break that because I kind of need him to otherwise. Yeah, I mean, this is so should be a good spot for Hoagie, should be a good spot for Denny McCarthy, should be a good spot for Eric Cole. Thomas Dietrich, outside of the first 6 holes on Sunday last week, played really well. Keith Mitchell has great history. Lucas Glover got a big, and Nico Echeverria got a big course fit adjustment. I like Michael Thorbjornsen just long term. I mean, this is a very, very deep range of golfers. We could talk about this section for a long time. I'm still buying Joe Highsmith. He's 7,100. Patrick Fishburne. God, I could make a lineup of all 7K guys, quite honestly. First off, there's 44 of them. This is a really fun group. You could make a case for a lot of these guys. Here's the Joe Highsmith profile that I'll remind you of. Joe Highsmith makes a change to his putting grip and immediately goes on a run. And that is even with losing 2.5 strokes putting in 3 rounds at the RSM Classic. Now, I assume he probably picked up strokes putting in round number 2. That was the round that he played on the Plantation course. He gained 4.5 strokes to the field, but we don't know what his putting number was. But now he's got 4 straight top 16 finishes. Played here last year, missed the cut. Wow, horribly. But he has not looked that bad, basically, since that event last year. Yeah, that was the worst event of his career. I'm going to cut him some slack on that. He's been much better. He's been much better since then. Can we just make a bunch of lineups in the 7K range? This is a very good range. Doug Gim is here. Wow. Okay. What I'm actually going to do, just for kicks. Yeah. Watch this. What I'm going to do is we're going to run a model with only the 7K guys. And I want to see what kind of lineups that it pumps out here. So here, what we'll do is we'll use the same, this has never been done before on RickRunGood.com or RickRunGood YouTube channel. We are actually going to put the model in run it with just the 7K guys. And then what I'll do is I'll then open it back up to everybody. And we'll run it again at the end of the show like we normally would. So I want fairway through green. So I'm going to say strokes gained approach last 24 for 20. Strokes gained around the green last 24 for 15. Strokes gained putting last 24 for 20. And then I'm also going to do a little bit of bonus putting for 10. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to course history, get my strokes gained Waialae for probably 20. And I've got 15 left. I think we need scoring. We need something scoring based. Birdies are better gained. Yeah, let's do that for 15. Now, this is only the 7K guys. Harry Hall, Mackenzie Hughes. Oh, no, sorry. Harry Hall is number one, but he's 8,100. Mackenzie Hughes is the top one, 7,800. Lucas Glover is 73. Let's run some. I just want to see what kind of lineups it pumps out really quick. Whoops. Oh, I screwed it up. Because I did that, it opened it up to everybody. Oh, my bad. All right. Well, I basically did the end of the show, but Mackenzie Hughes, Daniel Berger, Cameron Davis show up a lot. Nico Echeverry. Actually, we'll do it this way. Mackenzie Hughes shows up a lot. Daniel Berger shows up a lot. Cam Davis, Andrew Putnam, Harris English, Nico. Yeah, maybe that's why we don't do this, is because I screwed it up. And we're doing it live, basically. But that's a really, really fun range. We're going to have to talk a lot about those guys on Wednesday, I think, as well. All right, so now let's go to the 6K range. And I wonder if you can avoid the 6K range, because I bet you it's pretty bad here. Yeah, significant drop-off. Significant drop-off. No offense to Grayson Sigg and Henrik Norlander and Matty Schmidt and all these guys, but this is a pretty big drop-off. That 7K range is very, very good compared to what we've got here. But let's see what we can find. First off, Frankie Sappin. If you've heard me talk about anything in the last year, it is that I believe Frankie Sappin is going to be the rookie of the year. Up from the Korn Ferry, great talent. He will not be priced. If he does anything remotely close to what I think he's going to do, he's not going to be $6,600 for long. And these are the way to separate. Like, would you rather play a known entity like Sam Ryder or Luke List, who are really struggling, or some of these guys that might be unknowns that we have to take a little bit of a flyer on? Harry Higgs is back, right? Harry Higgs back from the Korn Ferry Tour. He is $6,300. He played the Australian Open a couple of weeks ago, finished T11. He played in Cabo in the fall, finished T30. He's playing better than a lot of the guys down here. Isaiah Salinda plays out of Las Vegas. If you look at incredibly talented, had himself a good Korn Ferry year. I don't think he won, but he had a lot of decent finishes, and he has now graduated to the PGA Tour. Chris Ventura, where is the Aussie? Is he in this field? I want, gosh, I can't remember his name. Phillips. Is he in this field? Is he playing this week? Carl is his name. I think he might spell it with a K, though. Am I right? No, I'm not. Okay. I don't think he's in the field. I'm getting so distracted today. I don't know what's wrong with me. Let's see who else is down here. I think those are probably my favorite. Higgs, Salinda, Frankie. I think there's a big drop off between the 7K range and the 6K range. Like, I think there's a huge difference between Rico Hoey and Bud Cauley, and they're $100 apart. That's kind of crazy. Who's min priced? Palmer, Mason Anderson. Okay. Let's see what the model has to say. I know we already ran it once, but let's kind of filter back here. So with everybody in, Mackenzie Hughes was my number one ranked golfer. Harry Hall second. Siwoo, Mav McNeely, Nico Echeverry round out the top five. Ben Griffin, Robert McIntyre, Seamus Power, Lucas Glover, and Patton Kazire. Berger's 12. I saw Maddie Schmid's name pop up there. 17th, $6,800. Gets a good putting number, a good approach number, a great bonus putting number, a great birdie or better number, small loser around the greens, and a loser at Waialae. Otherwise, very strong. I mean, look at this. We don't have a 10K golfer until Hideki is 14th. Yeah. Wow. Okay. This is fun. It's going to be a fun week. I love the full field event. I love Waialae. I think there's a lot of stuff to talk about in the 7K range. Remember, the live chat this week is 2 p.m. Eastern. Rick Run Good YouTube channel. The links for everything you need are in the description. I will see you later. Good luck.